When the world thought the U.S. was untouchable in global sports, Canada just flipped the script, and the shockwave, a staggering $40 billion loss that no one saw coming. The FIFA World Cup isn't just a sporting event, it's a global spectacle that brings nations prestige, tourism, and billions in economic gains. For decades, the U.S. has positioned itself as the dominant force in hosting major international events. But now, Canada has seized a golden opportunity, relocating key matches north of the border and leaving the U.S. scrambling. This isn't just about football, it's about influence, power, and the economic earthquake shaking the American sports landscape. The question now isn't who scores the winning goal, it's who controls the future of global sports. When FIFA announced the relocation of several World Cup matches from the United States to Canada, it wasn't just a scheduling update. It was a tectonic shift in the way the world perceives power, influence, and preparation. For decades, the United States has relied on its infrastructure, its economic clout, and its cultural dominance to secure a leading role in global events. It was almost a given. If the U.S. wanted to host, the U.S. hosted. But this decision by FIFA to move matches north sends a clear message. No nation, not even one as powerful as America, is beyond scrutiny or beyond replacement. This move highlights something deeper than logistics. It exposes a subtle, yet profound, shift in global trust and capability. Hosting a World Cup is not just about building stadiums or selling tickets. It's about projecting an image of stability, unity, and readiness to the entire world. And when that image falters, others are ready to step in. Canada didn't just take matches. It claimed a piece of the narrative that has historically belonged to the United States, a narrative of leadership and global primacy. For the first time in a long time, America finds itself in a reactive position, and that has implications that go far beyond sports. Think about the ripple effects. Sponsors who had invested based on U.S. exposure now have to pivot. Tourism dollars that were earmarked for American cities will flow into Canadian markets, and the cultural prestige that comes with hosting the world's biggest tournament will now elevate a different flag. This isn't just economics, it's psychology. For years, America has framed itself as the ultimate destination, the stage where the world gathers. But when that stage is shared or even partially taken away, it chips at the foundation of that perception. And let's not underestimate the symbolic power of this decision. Sports are never just about the game, they are about identity, pride, and influence. When FIFA chose Canada for these matches, it wasn't merely choosing stadiums, it was choosing confidence over complacency. It was rewarding a nation that positioned itself as adaptable, ready, and forward thinking. Meanwhile, the U.S., despite its resources, faced questions about preparedness, priorities, and even politics. These questions are not easily dismissed because they strike at the heart of what America has long stood for in the international arena, the ability to lead without question. In the end, this moment serves as a reminder that leadership is not permanent, it is earned and re-earned with every decision, every action, every demonstration of commitment. The U.S. may still be a giant, but giants that stop moving eventually lose ground to those who are willing to act. And if Canada's bold step teaches us anything, it's this. The future belongs not to those who assume their dominance, but to those who constantly prove it. The financial implications of this relocation are staggering, but to view this purely in terms of lost dollars is to miss the broader truth. When a $40 billion revenue stream evaporates almost overnight, it's not just a matter of balance sheets, it's a matter of credibility. For decades, the U.S. has positioned itself as the premier destination for mega events, the land where global spectacles translate into economic booms. This time, however, that narrative has cracked, and the cracks are wide enough for others to step through. Let's consider what this means. Revenue from the World Cup isn't confined to ticket sales or broadcast rights. It cascades through tourism, hospitality, local infrastructure projects, and countless small businesses that gear up for the influx of visitors. It strengthens city economies, generates jobs, and creates cultural moments that reverberate for years. To lose even a portion of that isn't just a missed opportunity, it's an indictment of readiness and foresight. It forces the uncomfortable question, was America so focused on its perceived supremacy that it neglected the fundamentals? This isn't an issue of money alone, it's an issue of mindset. Complacency is the silent thief of dominance. When a nation assumes that its influence is immutable, it stops doing the hard work necessary to maintain it. And that's where the danger lies, not in the dollars lost, but in the erosion of discipline and vigilance that those lost dollars reveal. Canada, by contrast, capitalized on its preparedness. It stepped into the gap with quiet confidence, and in doing so, reaped rewards that go beyond the financial. It earned a reputation as a reliable, forward-thinking partner on the global stage. A reputation that will echo long after the last match is played. But here's the deeper layer. This is about control, or rather, the illusion of control. For years, the U.S. has operated under the assumption that its economic and cultural dominance grants it an unshakable grip on opportunities like these. That assumption just met reality, and reality is an unforgiving teacher. When the market, be it for sports, trade, or diplomacy, signals that others can do what you do, and perhaps do it better, you are faced with a choice: double down on old habits or reinvent your approach. History is clear on what happens to those who choose the former. So, what do we take from this? That power is not a possession, it is a performance. It must be demonstrated consistently, with humility, adaptability, and a willingness to do the unglamorous work behind the scenes. When those qualities erode, so too does influence, no matter how mighty the name attached to it. The question for America isn't whether it can recover the $40 billion, it's whether it can recover the mindset that built its stature in the first place. Because without that, the dollars are just symptoms of something far more consequential: the slow unraveling of unquestioned leadership. While the financial and structural dimensions of this relocation are critical, there is another layer we must confront: the cultural shift and the psychological undercurrent it represents. The World Cup is not merely a sports tournament. It is a global symbol, a celebration of unity, competition, and influence. Hosting it is as much about prestige as it is about economics. It signals to the world that you are a hub of opportunity, a stage worthy of the grandest performance. For decades, the United States wore that badge with confidence. But what happens when that badge is taken away, when the stage lights dim, not because the world has changed, but because you fail to keep pace? This is about perception, and perception is power. When FIFA decided to move significant matches away from U.S. soil, it sent a message that resonates beyond soccer. It suggested a recalibration of global priorities, a willingness to look beyond traditional centers of power for reliability and excellence. For Canada, this wasn't just a win. It was an announcement to the world: we can deliver, we can rise to the occasion, and that announcement reverberates far beyond the pitch. It shapes how investors think, how businesses strategize, how political alliances evolve. Cultural authority, after all, is not maintained by reputation alone. It requires constant reaffirmation through action. The psychological toll of this shift is subtle but significant. For a nation that has long equated its identity with dominance, moments like this can provoke denial rather than introspection. But denial is dangerous because it breeds inertia, and inertia, in a globalized world, is fatal. The question America must ask itself is not why Canada succeeded, but why America assumed success was inevitable. The answer to that question is uncomfortable because it forces an admission. Entitlement has replaced effort in certain arenas, and effort is what sustains influence. When a country fails to recognize the soft power implications of an event like the World Cup, it misunderstands how global dynamics work. Influence is no longer commanded. It is earned, daily, visibly, and humbly. Canada seized its moment not by challenging America in rhetoric, but by preparing in silence, by aligning its vision with the realities of an evolving global order. There is a lesson there for every nation that believes its past guarantees its future. It doesn't. The world does not honor nostalgia, it honors performance. So here is the truth. This is not about soccer, not really. It is about signaling. It is about who the world sees as competent, reliable, and forward-thinking. And right now, the signal is clear. Leadership belongs to those who refuse complacency. That is a truth the United States can ignore or it can embrace. But if it chooses the former, this World Cup will not be the last opportunity it loses. It will merely be the first domino to fall, and then we arrive at the most profound implication of all, the question of adaptability in a rapidly shifting world. When FIFA decided to relocate matches worth billions, it didn't just expose an organizational shortcoming or a logistical failure. It exposed a deeper rigidity. A nation that once prided itself on innovation and resilience now appears encumbered by its own sense of permanence. There is a dangerous illusion in believing that leadership once attained is a permanent state. It is not. Leadership is a living organism. It breathes through change, survives through evolution, and dies through complacency. What Canada demonstrated in this scenario was not merely competence but agility, a willingness to recognize opportunity and move swiftly to seize it. That adaptability is the currency of the modern era. It is not the strongest that endure, nor the wealthiest, nor even the most historically dominant. It is those who can bend without breaking, those who can shed yesterday's assumptions and embrace tomorrow's demands. The irony here is that the United States built its early supremacy on precisely that principle, adaptability. It was the nation that reinvented itself time and time again, from industrial might to technological innovation, from isolationism to global leadership. But somewhere along the way, reinvention gave way to routine, and routine hardened into rigidity. The relocation of World Cup matches should not be dismissed as a mere sporting adjustment. It should be understood as a mirror reflecting the cracks in an old mindset. This is about more than stadiums and schedules. It is about systems and mentalities. It is about whether a country can still anticipate change before it becomes an emergency, whether it can still prioritize the long game over the short burst of political slogans. Because in a world where perception dictates investment, and investment shapes power, losing cultural milestones like this is not just symbolic, it is strategic. So the question becomes, what now? Will the United States treat this as a wake-up call or as background noise in the echo chamber of domestic politics? Will it acknowledge that global influence is not a birthright but a responsibility, one that must be earned again and again in every sector, from economics to entertainment, from sports to diplomacy? Or will it cling to nostalgia, mistaking history for destiny? These questions are not rhetorical. They demand answers, and not tomorrow, but today. If there is one truth this moment teaches us, it is this. The world rewards adaptability, not entitlement. Those who understand that will lead. Those who don't will watch their relevance erode, piece by piece, headline by headline. And so, the challenge is simple yet profound: become again the nation that acts before it reacts, that shapes the narrative instead of chasing it. Because if you cannot adapt, you cannot endure. And endurance in this era, everything. When the dust settles, this is no longer just about FIFA, Canada, or the loss of $40 billion in projected revenue. It is about the fragility of influence in a world that no longer waits for those who hesitate. Power today does not belong to those who claim it loudly, but to those who adapt quietly, relentlessly, and intelligently. The lesson here is stark. Dominance is not a monument carved in stone. It is a flame that must be fed, shielded, and rekindled with every passing generation. Canada's rise in this scenario was not an accident. It was a signal that in the global arena, agility will always outpace arrogance. And for the United States, the question is not whether it has the resources to compete. It unquestionably does. The real question is whether it still has the humility to learn, the vision to anticipate, and the courage to change. Because history is unkind to those who confuse past greatness with present security. So let this not be another headline lost in tomorrow's cycle. Let it be the moment when we stop mistaking slogans for strategy, when we reclaim the restless spirit that once made this nation unbreakable. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? The world is moving. It always has. The only choice left is whether to lead with purpose or to follow in silence.